Movies Roger said go to and I said no to, and vice versa, on a special show called Dueling Critics.
Say hello to my little friend!
Our next movie has a famous title. It's called Scarface. This is a modern gangster movie about a tough young Cuban, a convict who's allowed by Castro to take one of those refugee boats to Florida, where in 1981 he begins to build a criminal drug empire by dealing in cocaine. It's a good movie, I think.
You know, it's funny, I didn't like the movie at all.
At all?
Except for one aspect. I think that some of the shootout sequences in this film are some of the most beautifully choreographed things. But the rest of the movie, other than the violence, I found tremendously boring. And I just want to compare this film to The Godfather.
No, wait a minute. Now, he's not boring at all.
Oh, yeah, fabulously boring.
He is fabulously boring. At the beginning, he's extremely interesting because he's this hustler who gets off the boat, and he's got to think faster and be tougher than anybody else to make his way in the drug trade.
Right.
By the end of the movie, he's boring for a very specific reason, which is he is totally spaced out on cocaine. He has made the key mistake of using his own stuff. Instead of dealing it, he uses it. Right. So he's boring for that reason.
No, I found him totally uninteresting. I want to compare it to an obvious comparison.
Okay.
In the beginning of The Godfather, when Al Pacino is in that uniform, and he says he's not part of the family, he's a different character, there's a fascinating dynamic there. And so what happens to Pacino's character in that movie, which is sort of ending up the same kind of way, that's a fall from, if not greatness, it's a fall from goodness. And it's interesting. Just let me finish. In this movie, we have a fall from louseness.
So what?
Well, it's just not interesting.
He has a criminal's version of the American dream, which is get a lot of money, build a big house, and marry this blonde, right? And then, because of the drugs and because of his own fatal flaws, it all comes crashing down. So it's the story of a guy who's bad at the beginning, bad in the middle, and worse at the end. What's wrong with that?
All of the famous gangster films are not about louses who got lousier. Some of them are about interesting characters who got lousier.
That's a historical footnote, but it's not a criticism of this film.
It's a criticism of this movie because it doesn't compare with its obvious comparison, The Godfather.